Hi, I'm Dex Gelfand, and there's something I'd like to explain today regarding my practice, which I call therapeutic spiritual counseling. I'd like to touch on a subject I've spoken about before, which is the casting of self-images between two people. We each send out two sort of holographic constructs. We project these. We project onto each other. This is who you are to me, and this is who I am to you. So that goes two ways. So there's those two projections coming from the other person to you, and the two projections coming from you to the other person. See, we all have quite a collection of personas, of identities that we take on or find ourselves encumbered in various situations. And very often we feel trapped by these. Very often we wish we didn't behave or react a certain way that we fell into because of having these personas, these projections, or these layers of personality within us. And these are activated by certain circumstances between two people. One thing that I teach all of my trainees in therapeutic spiritual counseling, while we have the tools to deconstruct these layers, all these different characters, personalities we take on that encumber us and restrict our behavior to certain things, that the first question to ask is, does this feel more like an identity that you took on, or does it feel more like an identity that it was imposed onto you? It's a very important question because the way to approach resolving them is different. The technique for resolving identities you've taken on is not the same technique for resolving identities that have been imposed on you by people that you relate to, people you have different types of relationships with. Okay, and the personality image projection technique for dealing with the personality projections we impose onto others and have imposed on us is a very, very magical thing. There are definitely moments within the procedure that you feel quite different. You feel quite amazed. It's a whole different feeling. It's a very liberated feeling. It's very special, and anybody who's experienced it can attest to that. And that's one reason that I like for all my trainees to actually experience the technique in a session with me, because it's really something to behold. It's a wonderful feeling. And the reasons for this should be understood. See, when someone projects or imposes a personality onto you, this is who you are to me. I mean, there's a whole palpable sense of it. There's an image of that you that goes with you. Or if you're projecting it on the other person, an image of them. And it's very binding whenever you are interacting with the person with whom these projections are occurring. So one thing to understand about this that I generally haven't explained except in sessions and in training is that when someone projects a personality image onto you, unlike everything else we do in therapeutic spiritual counseling, you yourself cannot process the energy of that projection because it is one of the rare cases where you are addressing something that you yourself did not create. So it's not your energy to process. So essentially what you have to do with that is just allow it, not send it back to the other person, but allow it to gravitate back to the creator of that projection, the other person. And there is a great effect both ways. Understand that when you impose onto somebody else, boom, this is who or what you are, okay, that has essentially a detrimental effect on them. It's very rigid and restricting, and it feels kind of heavy, which is why it feels so wonderfully light when a person allows themselves to be free of these projections through the technique. And on the other hand, when you have done that, or when somebody has imposed a projection on you, as we do all the time, okay, that other person who imposed that projection on you is also burdened with having done that to you. It has a chronic, unrelieved effect on them to have done that. It is a burden to them that they have done that to you, just like it is a burden to you, spiritually speaking and emotionally speaking, every time you've sort of imposed a self-image onto another person. So therefore, in this process, at the moment that you're letting go of this projection that someone else has imposed on you of yourself, you let them have it back. Like some people sometimes have a concern that they're doing something harmful by throwing it back at the other person. First of all, you're not throwing it back. You're allowing the other person to have their energy back. And once they have it back, they immediately assimilate and process it, and it no longer is. Okay? It just returns to being pure state of their own energy, no longer composed as that construct. So it is a relief both ways. So you are doing yourself and the other person a favor. You're helping yourself out, and you're helping them out in allowing them to have their projections back. We all have regret and guilt over everything we've done that we feel is harmful. And it is one basic reason why we don't allow ourselves the full extent of our powers and abilities, or even allow ourselves to consider ourselves to be powerful and great in many things, because we worry about the effects on other people. So this is one way of how we undo these effects. And it is, again, a magical moment when you first take a good look at the projections that have been imposed on you by the other person. And in just identifying it and describing it, you get a little bit of separation, of realization that it isn't you. And you complete the process by letting go of it altogether and letting it gravitate back to the other person. And there is a spiritual recognition both ways between yourself and the other person, sort of a clean slate, a cleared space shared between you. And it's truly a magical effect. And that is one example of how therapeutic spiritual counseling can make your existence better. If you would like to learn more about this, to experience this for yourself, and I strongly recommend that you do, and perhaps you're interested also in learning how you can use this technique with others and train in therapeutic spiritual counseling, I'm readily available. I would welcome hearing from you. I look forward to it. You can reach me through the contact page on my website at decsessions.com. Thanks for listening, and I do look forward to hearing from you.